Welcome to the Magic in the Cloud podcast, where exceptional visionaries reveal the personal journeys behind their remarkable success. This is a conversation with leaders who've transformed industries by navigating pivotal moments, making bold decisions, and cultivating extraordinary teams. We explore the turning points that define their careers, those instances where intuition met strategy and everything changed. It's an intimate look at the leadership philosophies that drive revolutionary outcomes, with cloud solutions as the quiet enabler. Here are your hosts, Joseph Griffith and Ryan Golombeski.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Magic in the Cloud. Joining me today is a passionate business leader, tech entrepreneur, investor, all kinds of experiences in the Salesforce ecosystem, other technologies, all kinds of industries. He's got a really impressive track record around innovation, but what's really cool is his commitment to helping others succeed. He brings a unique blend of strategic vision and what I would call a builder's grit. So we'll not only uncover his business journey today, I think the two of us would agree, more importantly, is I'm real interested in his philosophies and superpowers that fuel his momentum. With that, everybody, please meet my next guest, Greg Wojcik. Welcome to Magic in the Cloud, Greg.
Pleasure to meet you all. Pleasure to be here and to share some hopefully useful insights.
I appreciate that, man. I love the little known fact, right? I think as we were getting ready for the show, you said in Poland, you're the fifth most popular last name.
Yeah, and I never thought that a combination of 6 letters would be so popular, let alone twist my tongue and other folks' tongue. I really don't mind. I enjoy it's working with customers, right? I enjoy their interpretation of what we do, and especially their interpretation of my last name. But then I immediately turn the tables on and say, look, no matter what you call me, I want to be your trusted partner. So it doesn't matter. The short version of all that hot air is, look, call me what you want, but at the end of the day, I want to call your vision and journey a success.
I appreciate that, man. So I'd like to hear a little bit about, let's start on the business side first, then we'll get to the cool personal stuff. So your journey now as the Chief Revenue Officer for Royal Transportation Services, or as we might call RTS moving forward here. This is currently where you're doing your thing. Tell us a little bit about how you got there, what attracted you to the organization.
The one thing I will mention as a preface, we live in an age and operate across a lot of market dynamics that title bears any significance to who a person is or what they do. So really, the 3 letters CRO, you could say it's a Chief Revenue Officer, but really, in whatever capacity, you are a customer relations officer. That applies to any department, that applies to any task that you do, as really what your focus is twofold. One is to remain very close and lockstep with the journey of the customer and to fulfill the customer needs to their expectations and beyond. So really that philosophy or that operating structure is how I began my career in a very dynamic environment of basically contract manufacturing for pharma companies. My first organization was Catalent Pharma Solutions. Then it was called Cardinal Health, right?
Oh, we all locally in the Philadelphia.
Absolutely. You're working already with daily tasks that impacts the lives of patients, right? So clearly that type of focus and you're in the mix of it all, working on all the contracts, designing projects, getting clinical trial supplies out the door directly to patients on time, every time. And you're impacting, for example, compassionate use studies or compassionate use products where those products are the last line of life for patients. So clearly, you're jumping into the deepest end of the pool. And clearly, it's not a job for everyone. But for those who do well in organizations and immediately get their career started in this type of role, this type of environment, you immediately build the ability and the resourcefulness to work directly with customers, enhance their needs, and follow their journeys in lockstep very closely, which has been key to all of my career since day one. The reason why I took that approach, as opposed to give you a typical interview rundown of what's your story, what's good about you, what's bad about you, what are you working on to make yourself better, all those crazy questions. Look, I think what drives us all is the customer journey, and we need to understand that. And where that takes us in our careers, it can go across many turns. It doesn't matter. Really, we're here to make an impact, whether it's from something important as a clinical trial to, for example, working 20-hour days to get the COVID-19 vaccine out the door to patients that need it right away because of operational shortfalls due to high demand, impossibly high demand, which I credit my mentor, Sandy Richwalski, being there since day one from my days at Cardinal Health all the way. We worked at 3 organizations together. She grew Vacutech US, and it was a resounding success and a very important operation for COVID-19. So really, what brought me here? That is your original question, Joe.
Yeah.
What brought me here to Royal Transportation Services? Because Vacutech was such a great success, and I've had such great success with customers, decision makers, patients, lives, being at trade shows, physically seeing patients get better and fulfill clinical trials, and sponsors like your GSKs, your Mercks, your pharma companies out there, medical device companies out there, especially in rare disease. When you see good data enriching the objectives of clinical trials, you're doing a good job, or at least you're contributing to it. So my philosophy has always been contribution and consistency. Royal Transportation Services, where I'm at today, does both of those things for its customers. Now, we have deeply experienced and enriched folks within pharma, within electronics, within the industries that our customers come from, and our prospective customers in the pipeline are coming to accept us as their trusted provider. These are elements that are lacking within the transportation industry. So basically, Joe, I will make a keynote remark and say this, and then we'll move on to your other question for the sake of not boring anyone here. We may produce the most important, most effective drug product as a pharma or a contract manufacturer, such as my past suggests. But what good is that product if we cannot get it to where it needs to go on time to the right patient at the right time? This is something that RTS, Royal Transportation Services, was able to do for me in the past, and what we do for our customers each day, whether it's for pharma, whether it's for tires, any of the Fortune 500 companies. If there's freight, it's got to get there. Otherwise, the product's no good. And no matter what the conditions are, a lot of the transportation providers that I've worked with in the past and that I've currently seeing, and of course, according to my market research, customers are complaining about this fact that they don't understand, their journeys are not understood. RTS is customer journey first and driven, not just data driven, right? Not just all that other stuff that we're used to. We're data driven, we're customer driven. Right? You could be, but understanding and following the customer journey is key to success. And that's what placed me here at RTS through the hard work of the career and impacting areas of the industry such as patients, their lives, helping decision makers make clear decisions, driving their bottom line. And at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is think about revenue and the bottom line. Of course, that's managed, right? But customers first. And I'm like the anti-CRO. I am a customer relations officer. This is what I am. This is what I do. But being a chief revenue officer comes last. So that is my take and a history of what I see as where folks should be geared towards in our current market, post-COVID markets, and what customers are looking for, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. There's a ton of nuggets in there, as it has always been that we talk. So one point of clarification, on the books, you're the chief revenue officer. In spirit and in actually what happens every day, you see yourself as the chief relationship officer. And more importantly, that's how you strive to have those you work with, your partners, and your customers see.
Correct. It's the customer relationship officer. I can't stress that enough. Customer is what we breathe.
Yeah. So do you actually have, is that your formal title, relationship officer?
No. For myself, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. I love it.
You can call me whatever you want, but ultimately the customer has a need.
Yep.
They rely on us to not only do the work, but also get their products from point A to point B and understand all the bumps in the road and smooth those roads out for them. But also they need folks that are experienced that can handle $1 million products or vials for them. You can't give it to somebody, just some agency out there who promises the world and doesn't understand you, what you do, or your product. That's not who we are. That's why we got experienced staff every step of the way. So what the CRO role does in this, if I'm looking at this from an ownership perspective or investor perspective, the CRO manages obviously the revenue is expected to, but ultimately we manage our customers, which drives pipeline and cures the peaks and valleys that investors are nervous with when it comes to contract organizations. So really the customer is the key, obviously, to revenue. But before we get to the revenue, we have a journey that we can follow along with our customers to build pipelines of success. Then we can worry about the revenue, because that's like your reward. That isn't your focus. My focus is money. We wouldn't even be talking right now. We're here for a relationship and to drive success and growth, and also address any learning curves as we go along for the customer as their right-hand partner, as opposed to a commodity.
Yeah. What I try and do for my audience in the spirit of the Magic in the Cloud podcast, which is named or came out of the organization Cloud 113, what I look for is what's that secret sauce that gets us from 1, 2 to 3? What's that look like? And one of the things, two things stood out in your remarks. One, I think you did a great job of sharing that you look to hire people who want to be there. And what I mean by that is you mentioned that on the surface, right, it could look like just another supply chain organization. You're getting product from point A to point B. Most people understand that general business model. But what I think you're saying is you have to appreciate, no matter what your role is at RTS, you have to want to be there. And wanting to be there means, do you embrace the fact that your contribution could or will contribute to life-saving measures for people? Is that a fair assessment? It reminds me, I think we've talked about my DJ business, and the number one skill is I have to see in your eyes that you want to be there. All the other things you can teach.
It does. Look, if you're not there to follow the customer journey, it's like me showing up and interviewing at your company, Cloud 113, whose name I love, because in my world, 1 + 1 = 3. It does, because it leaves space where, the customer grows with you. That's my interpretation of your equation there for your company. So it's like me showing up at your company and interviewing and me not looking into your eyes when I'm talking to you. The conversation, it could be taken two ways. One is either I'm not taking your needs seriously and your expectations seriously, or I'm fabricating and I'm to set the stage to, look, I'll fake it until I make it. No.
Yeah.
You can't screw around like that when it comes to patients' lives and freight that needs to be moved from point A to point B. And of course, everybody's going to be a yes person, right? But really, it comes down to whether or not you can do something, which leads to the next point. A successful manager, especially in this capacity, whether they're a chief revenue officer, or as I call a customer relations officer, which could be anyone, the day-to-day is, look, if you're a manager of any kind, a worker of any kind, the playing field is level. The manager always needs to step into the role of what the customer needs. In other words, the operations, because there are 3 important pillars to each company, just 3. That's sales, that's operations, and it's people. Those are the 3 areas that are managed in every company. Those are the 3 common denominators. Managers need to be involved in those 3 pillars, think in terms of those 3 pillars, scale and grow them, of course, but they have to physically be able to do the work. In other words, if we have a person down, if they get exhausted, and if a manager jumps right in and helps them out, imagine what that person feels. Look, I got direct support. I just don't have somebody who's going to just give me a pepperoni pizza at the end of the day and say, hey, good job. Here's your reward. Bye. And especially in front of the eyes of the customer, we want to make sure we have management that is able to be competent within the operations. It's people and not just the sales, right? So sales, operations, and people, SOP, in fact, is an SOP, standard operating procedure for a successful manager. That's how I operate, to be selfish. But to not be selfish, that's what customers expect of us collectively, to help them also with their sales, operations, and people within their structures and company as well. What bridges us is the journey of the customer. Joe, it reminds me of, I was relaxing with my family in Fort Lauderdale on the beach, and I hear this rumble in the sky. I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm supposed to hear the waves, the beach, and the people having fun and kids running around. All of a sudden, I see blue jets in the sky. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh, here they are. It's the Blue Angels. And I asked somebody, like, what's going on? Are we treated to an air show? I'll get to the point where I'm going with this very quickly. But he said, no, this is the day before. I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to have 8 hours at least, probably, of them turning the sky upside down. Of course, with the entertainment, the amazement of our brothers and sisters in arms. And I appreciate appreciation for them and what they do. But when I looked at those jets, what they were doing in the sky, one of them was a woman pilot, by the way, I was amazed not only what they've done, but the meaning it carried. If we fly in formation that closely in unison with our customers, imagine what the audience must think of when we seriously kick butt for our customers and get the job done and keep going. That's really what our aim is and what we do here. Now, we're intermodal, so I'm not going to have trains and trucks and planes, maybe flying that tight formation, but hey, we'll get your freight along your customer journey, get it through, get it done the way it's supposed to be. And we're going to align with you going forward as well. So really, those sources of inspiration, Joe, are very important to a manager of this role or any role within the organization, to be inspired by something you've seen applied to the customers and come up with new areas of motivation and innovation to make their journey simpler and, of course, meet all of their expectations more efficiently. But yeah, Joe, there are many definitions for it. But in terms of what I've experienced along the way and the managers that I've worked with and my own responsibilities, no matter what they were, how simple they were, at the end of the day, the customer expects to be served efficiently. There's communication that needs to take place, follow up, and to be there for them, to nurture the relationship and allow it to grow. Really, to be there, lockstep, tight formation, getting it done. That's really what we do. And that's really what's amiss, according to our latest market surveys that came in about less than 2 weeks ago. Customers feel neglected. When I have 2 doors in my offices, right? I can bring in a customer through the front door and through bad operations, bad follow-up, run them out the back door over here. We don't want that. That's a terrible thing to do. And really, then are we revenue focused? Just, hey, we want your money and that's it. No, we want your success. The money, we'll figure that out. Don't worry about it. That's really the way I talk with our customers. They appreciate it because they know where the priorities are immediately.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I'm going to try and summarize the key takeaways for our audience. Number one, I think your framework of sales, operations, and people is right on. From an operational perspective, you have to strive for internal operational excellence, right? There's your Blue Angels flight story. I always start there. If you have internal operational excellence, then you have to find people who can succeed in that environment. And the big thing we learned today starts with, you have to want to be there. You have to want to be in a situation where that internal operational excellence goes by the wayside if you're not focused on getting the life-saving products in the hands of the patient, the customer, when they're needed. At the end of the day, if you focus on those 2 things, then sales does take care of itself. I think that's what I've learned over the years. So thanks for sharing that framework. I think the last thing that the audience should leave with is, you can have this one because you said it. everybody in the organization is a CRO, a customer relationship officer. Everybody has to embrace that title.
Absolutely, Joe. That is correct. Before our beginning of the show here, I've had 3 pharma companies get in touch with me directly with their sensitive shipments to have a transportation agency. I'll be very general for whatever applications that the audience feels that they would use within their operational framework. Pharma companies, they have freights and loads that are of very high value. That's where we specialize. We also do things like tires, electronics for big names, for Fortune 500 companies. Everything's treated equally. But when you have millions of dollars on a single pallet, you get a lot of folks nervous. But for us, it's common practice because we have folks that come from that world and we have folks that do this work each day effectively. I'm not boasting. This is just a reality of what we are able to build together with our customers. And we have more customers that are relying on us to do this type of work. But ultimately, you're right. Your sales is it manages under this type of environment. You want to be a part of this? Absolutely. You have to want this. But ultimately, the way you find out you have the good candidates with this type of environments, no matter what the role is simply automatic. You don't have to answer the fancy questions. You don't have to go into clever skill assessments, which I frown upon. I found them to happen very often in several key roles. We don't do that. We value your schooling and your abilities, but whether or not this is the environment for you, it's a self-curing mechanism. If you have a productive environment, one that is in tune with their customers, and meeting their expectations daily, every hour, every minute, every second, living and breathing this culture, if something doesn't fit, it's like your body. If something foreign is identified by your body, you're going to have a reaction. You'll know it's good or bad. So it's the same thing, Joe. When you have that tight knit of an organization, no matter what the size of it is, you listen to it. You listen to yourself, to how well your customers are being serviced, what your customers say. Everything happens intrinsically without thinking or overanalyzing or spending hours upon hours and resources into data that what we're focused on, Joe, this is a key statement. I think we're focused on, in our conversation here for the audience, a company like Royal Transportation Services is focused on creating meaning for our customers, not just a means to an end, a commodity, or even a partnership. We go way beyond that. We want to be a part of their story. And that story is always of success. Of course, there's ups and downs. Nothing's ever perfect, but that's really what cures a lot of learning curves, enables the relationship and both companies to grow and scale, but also to share a wonderful story. And if there are any improvements to be made, we have the meaning, not just the data. Data's boring and useless often. We want to have meaning to drive discussions, to better the relationship and serve our customers better, and also to get it done in ways that are not done by other folks. So meaning is very important, not just being data-driven, customer-driven, partnership-driven. We need to create a story for ourselves. And if we can do that, if we could be the authors of a mutual story, there's no limit to where we can go in terms of the future.
Yeah, again, said, and I do want to finish on meaning, so hold that thought on meaning. My last 2 questions before we talk a little bit more about you, which I know you're going to be super modest about. That's cool. I have one question about misconceptions of your space. And I think, if you've got other ones to add, but the one that I've learned today is I take for granted that when my critical life needs, could be a drug, could be the stents for my kidney stone operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I take for granted that they're going to be there. And I probably didn't appreciate what goes on behind the scenes to make sure they're there on time and there's enough of them and it's the right type and things like that. But that's one big misconception, is I just think of it more as a commodity service. What, if anything else, stands out as a misconception of your industry?
To keep it very short, the misconception is simple. Transportation is viewed as something like going to the gas station. You go there, you fill up, you go. You don't think about the gas station until you run on empty, right? It's like that's the definition of being a commodity. So what we have at Royal Transportation Services, as an example, not being selfish. Me, Joe, I'm very humble. I'm a giving person. I'm not here to self-promote. I'm here to give credit as opposed to receive it. I don't want or need any credit. But what I will give to the folks who are listening in your audience is that with a company who has tuned itself into its customers and markets, you have powerful people here as resources from the customer industries, pharma, the ability to talk the same language when you're handling millions of dollars worth of product on a single pallet. You lose that due to temperature or neglect. That is a headache. It's a huge disappointment, and you can have people die. We get it. We service this. We understand. Also, you get more than just people and experience, and obviously the delivery of service. Renee Rogers, CEO of Ono, who I introduced you to, you get a portfolio that helps manage the service. For example, Renee's company, she manages incidents effectively that could happen to any kind of fleet. For example, load is hijacked or stolen, or if there's a, God forbid, right? If there is an accident, Renee's company, its product, its app, easy to use app by its drivers, its management, is able to manage those incidents without any effort at all and get the successful resolution and get everything rolling again, obviously, and lessen the headaches and burden upon those folks who are affected by what happened on the road. Look, roads are open. Accidents will happen. We're human. No matter how much AI we got today, it's never going to take away from the fact that accidents do happen. And Renee's company caters to that area, which is a significant portion of loss within the transportation industry. And transportation is the vital link between product and end user. It all makes sense. So if you have a partner who's able to guide you from that, okay, you produce your product, we're able to have not only what we do, but also have strategic partners in place, often for free. We're such a low cost at your fingertips. You feel empowered. You feel the trust. You're able to give pipelines of work and get your product through where it needs to go right away through experienced, equipped, and also eyes that see into the future or see down the road. We look at the big picture, what's in front of us through the windshield as opposed to the rear view mirror. If you're looking at revenue, you're looking at the rear view mirror. You're not going to see what's in front of you. You're going to crash. If you look forward with the customer, travel their journey from point A to point B, armed with technologies like Ono, and also through consultancies like Jim Pishock, a wealth of knowledge to get their product manufactured right and to get to their studies managed. We'll get the product where it needs to go through people like that and through partnerships, and that we'll throw in on a table at virtually no cost. This comes from experience as opposed to hiring a trucker out there, for example, and okay, I have product. Here you go. Have fun. There's 50 million bucks on your trailer, but all right, just go. I'm going to blindly trust you. No, you want more due diligence. You want experienced hands and a portfolio of services that are built in that will manage any bumps in the road. That's what Royal Transportation has. That's why I joined this company, obviously for what it can do, but most importantly is basically we're truly here for the customer. We're not just some tractor trailer that's going to run you off the road because you cut them off or something or cause the load to shift or whatever. No, I'm being very facetious, but you know what I'm saying? This is the level of seriousness from product to transportation to the end patient.
I couldn't agree with you more. I have one analogy from a meal I had over the weekend for Father's Day, which, by the way, we made a reservation. We thought it would be crowded. There was no one there. We wanted some alcohol. They didn't serve it. And it wasn't necessarily the cleanest place. In the end, it was some of the best smash burgers I've had in years, so we're going to go back. But in this scenario, your food's coming to the table, and it looks the same, right? We ordered a bunch of smash burgers, and my wife said, "Hey, server, can you give us some information about which one is which?" Now, in that scenario, it's okay that he said, "Why don't you just take the buns off and check?" I think in your situation, if I was a driver with $50 million worth of product and they said, "No, which one do we take out first or which one's ours?" It wouldn't be the right service to say, just open it all up and figure out which one you like. So I can appreciate that we're back again to the internal operational excellence and to hiring people that want to be there. That's a skill set that if you can hire or train that in your organization, then that customer's going to have a poor experience.
Well,
So
Joe,
before we talk about,
I was a
yeah,
server too. So I think one thing that was really important, that's a good topic. Just very quickly, one of the most important things that anybody could ever bring into their careers is what they have done before their career has begun. I was a server too. So the worst thing they could ever get in between is a person and their appetite. So if something's wrong and folks are hungry, believe me, you don't want to get in between a lion and its prey. Not saying that that's the way we eat dinner or breakfast, but you get what I'm saying. Folks are hungry. They're more emotionally prone to a response when something doesn't go right. So catering to those needs before the career begins and being disciplined in serving folks directly like that into something very important to them, which is food. All of us need food and water.
yeah, no, that's, you're right. That's a good analogy, right?
Carry
It's
that with
right up
you.
there with it's life. It can be arguably we're talking life saving, right?
But the thing is,
Eh,
you want to make sure that you give excellent customer service. You deliver an excellent product. You deliver excellent follow-up. If, hey, does the food taste good? Do you want more drinks? Would you like dessert? Would you like an appetizer? You keep the customer, you keep that going. So that spirit has always been the same ever since, that server working as a server all the way up until right now. If you treat your customer like a server is supposed to treat the customer over at a restaurant or whatever food establishment, I think we have mankind's basic needs met. Then I think we're on to something really good in terms of retaining a customer and also being very tuned to their journey. Look, folks want to eat. Folks need stuff done. We're here to get stuff done, but you need to have the people that are experienced, that are good cooks, that are good servers, that won't drop an entire plate of spaghetti on them or spill drinks on them, and also be very polite and also respectable towards and understanding towards a customer's conversation needs and experiences. All of that is completely necessary all the way up to a C-level role. Anyone who says that is not true should clearly not be does not want to be here. Let's just put it that way. That's a self-curing mechanism, an example of a self-curing mechanism there.
Yeah.
Not be
So
success
thanks.
on the customer side.
Yeah. So thanks for taking my analogy and validating it even more. I didn't come at it from a life saving perspective, but at the end of the day, the guy serving you your dinner tonight should have the same skill set as someone who's dropping off $50 million worth of life saving inventory.
If I'm hungry, even a slice of pizza looks like $1 million to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hey, this is all great. I think we move into a lot of your personal beliefs and things that you live by. Let's talk a little bit more. The audience always likes to hear more about your upbringing, where you were born, and in addition to Sandy, what other folks had influence on your life and why.
Yeah, absolutely. My second language is Polish. My parents were immigrants that came to the US in the 70s. I was born in 1981. So the upbringing has always been blue collar, much like this shirt over here. It's been hardworking, disciplined, getting things done, being very resourceful, and appreciating the efforts of others, right? And contribution is a major philosophy growing up. So really, you're given all these great opportunities in life, and no matter what you got or how rich or poor you are, and I never really grew up rich. It was towards the poor end, but you contribute. You say thanks for the opportunities you have through hard work, through the completion of hard work. So I think that is important and it's a concept that I think is being missed in today's work ethic, in today's ability to serve our customers. And of course, finding the right people to serve important customers of any kind. I think that's really personally what helps address learning curves early and to be focused on contribution. Folks that were very important to me, obviously, was Sandy, who I met day one, 20 years ago, when I started at Cardinal Health, Catalan Pharma Solutions today. And she had a very high responsibility. And I was working on a few proposals with her because I was pretty much, there were two of us doing all the quotes for that very large company. And I walk into her office and say, hey, could you tell me about what you do? She asked me, what do you want to be? What do you want to have? What are your goals? I said, my goal is to have your job. She immediately smiled, and that's how our relationship started. It wasn't, that was not arrogant. This is something that, look, she was straight, I was straight. I want to be impactful. I want to be useful. I want to contribute. So Sandy is one of them, a wonderful professional who's, I mentioned earlier, Jim Pishock, head of project management, excellent experience in clinical trial supplies and pharma manufacturing. His consultancy will guide any company to its success across any type of manufacturing needs and also clinical trial execution and follow-up afterwards, all the way from concept to FDA filing and beyond. Renee Rogers, an amazing CEO, one of the best CEOs out there, the future, the light of women-owned enterprises. And honestly, she shines like a true CEO, what the CEO should do and be and act, just like Sandy. Both of those, Sandy and Renee, are the top. I've never seen leadership like that. And I've never seen more commitment to a customer and their success, not only just after hours stuff, but the ability to be there for not only the customer, but also the markets, and to teach and be an example of what it is to be true success and light in the darkness that markets and the future may hold for us. Not to be, I don't want to give you a Shakespearean soliloquy here. That's
You're
like
out of my league.
These are two individuals who are the future of leadership, especially Renee and Sandy. They're just amazing folks. And I've been motivated also by our brothers and sisters in arms. I've had the pleasure of meeting several generals. The founder of the Special Forces Group, GROM, which is Poland's Tier 1 Special Forces that work daily with our Navy SEALs, with our SEAL Team 6, our Delta Force operators, our highest end military services throughout the world. They partner up on the most dangerous and covert of missions, and those folks are truly extraordinary, and they are universal soldiers. So if any one of them goes down, for example, all of them are trained medics to get them right back up and save their lives. And they've had tremendous success throughout the globe of what they're able to do. So being motivated, not just by what they do or who they are, but that Swiss Army approach, being effective, being surgical, addressing needs with surgical precision, with a clear vision and outcome in mind every time, is amazing. And the General Sławomir Petelicki, the founder of this group, much like the founder of SEAL Team 6, Richard Marcinko, he would sit, for example, in an office space like this, in darkness, and have dummies, hostages, and fake soldiers, whatever, called the kill room, right? His guys and girls would storm in, blow the doors to pieces with live fire, take out all the targets. After all that chaos is done, one of the operators would announce, don't move, raise your arms. One false move and you're done. You pick up his arms, and this is all bullets flying around his head and everything else. That's how much faith he had in his staff. Yep. Like Margaret Thatcher with the SAS, her head didn't go down when bullets were flying in her attempted assassinations. And people said, you know what, why didn't you go down? Why didn't you flee? Because I trust my people. So trust is ultimately what I've learned from these folks, not only to be better and stuff like that. Of course, you can learn that from everyone, but trust in our customers and their vision. Customers always right. And us trusting ourselves, marry that together. You have a wonderful picture.
Yeah, the thread you mentioned earlier, right? All those people practice internal operational excellence, not just amongst themselves. All those scenarios, right? If you want to be in a special ops situation, if you want to be the CEO, female CEO in a male-dominated space like Renee is, you have to want to be there. We've talked about that, right? And then from a sales perspective, maybe sometimes in a military situation, the sales doesn't translate to dollars, but it probably translates to lives saved, lives protected, right? So I could see those themes. You also reminded me of something that's an oldie but goodie that I think both you and I subscribe to, which is when I read Good to Great, I think level 5 leadership really resonated with me. I think there's a lot of great level 4 leaders, but one of the characteristics of level 5, just like in Ted Lasso, the soccer, I don't know if you're a Ted Lasso guy, but level 5 leadership plans on being replaced. So when Sandy said to you, what do you want to do? And you commented by someday take your job. A level 5 leader says, thank goodness I have somebody, another one that in my flock that I can grow to take my place someday. To me, wanting to hire people who are better than you in certain skill sets to eventually replace you, I think those kind of people I think are great role models. Question for you. You named a lot, but those 3-4 people that stand out in your life, have you had a chance to tell them all thank you?
I can't single them out in one way or another. Those were equal, impactful folks.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying one better than the other. Have you had a chance to thank each and every one of them for their contribution to you?
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
what I
I
was
knew it
leading
was
up
a
to,
rhetorical
it's
question.
like a wave forming. No amount of thanks from my end would ever be able to thank them or show honor and gratitude towards what they've done for me and for our customers and for the lives that they've impacted. More or less, those are folks a rare find, and it is my duty and the duty of the spirit of all the folks here at Royal Transportation Services to operate under, to continue that model. And I sure as hell enjoy hiring folks that are smarter than me, that have a less complex last name than I do, 6 letters that we're joking about prior to the show.
Wojcik, that's what I'm sticking with.
No problem, but passing on the legacy is so important. And I have no ego, and I have every bit of motivation to work with, serve with, and to pass on this torch. Because guess what? We leave everything behind once we're gone, whether it's retirement or the journey underground or wherever. We want to hire the best and the folks that will replace us. So from day one, being surprised by what Sandy said, how she welcomed my comment, and how that built a 20+ year relationship across 3 organizations at the very least, driving that success is amazing. And guess what? It's my duty to do the same, and how we work at Royal Transportation Services. So ego does not drive us, the customer does. So if we're having a stressful day, for example, and just a practical application real quick, if we're having a stressful day at any job, any of my prior roles, what really cured that stress and those challenges, those emotions, was to think about the customer. What am I doing right now that's helping my customer? It helped me set aside any and all raw emotion that I may have, or frustrations or challenges with a certain situation. If what I'm doing right now is helping my customer, I know that I'm doing something meaningful. Anger is temporary, sorrow is temporary, but success is eternal in terms of our customers. Emotion is irrelevant. Success is what we strive for, and to be replaced with our legacy and part of other folks' careers and lives. That's what we strive for here at Royal Transportation Services. Folks like me, I don't want the credit, whether it's right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's my goal to pass the torch on to folks that are similar minded, that are in their approaches with our customers to life, and also wanting to be here. This isn't something that's acquired. It's something much more important than that. It takes a while. It takes the way you were brought up and everything else, whatever those factors are. It's important that we pass the light on, serve our customers, and get things done.
So I think you've been really authentic and passionate about what makes you tick, quote unquote, during the day with RTS. But as we look to wrap up, I do want you to step outside of your current RTS world and business world and share with us, outside of business, what 1 or 2 accomplishments are you proud of?
Becoming a father, that is the paramount apex. Everything else, it doesn't matter. Those are just efforts of contribution. Of course, effects matter, but becoming a father you're put into situations where you're very uncomfortable at first.
It can be scary.
Look, Joe, there are books on this. I'm not going to rehash any of that content, but just to keep it short, you learn skills that, number one, you thought you would never have. You refine things very quickly, such as patience, such as resourcefulness, such as an infinite amount of energy to get things done immediately. Things that you thought you never had, you find automatically without thinking, and you do without thinking. And when you take that experience of becoming a parent, mother or father, and you apply that evolution of yourself to the customer, to be there for them, to be patient with their needs. Look, we're all children. We were children, right? Physically, but look, we're still kids. We have a basic set of needs. We want to be happy. We want to be satisfied. The customers are like children. The relationships have to be raised. They have to be nurtured. They have to be fed. We have to allow them to grow. We can't be forceful upon them. We can't beat the crap out of them. You do that, you're not going to have any customers. But you know what I'm saying, right? But basically, we need to take care of our customers and listen to them, not yell at them, not neglect them. They're basically our children, part of our family. Companies and families are two different things, right? A lot of companies say that we're like family. Really, our family is the customer. What we do together binds us already. Let's focus on the customer. We already know who we are, what we are within our company. So really take those philosophies and everything that you learn becoming a parent. And I don't think I need to get into the examples, but that has been the most important part in my evolution. Yeah. Going from a arrogant 20-year-old who's stepping into the career, thinking that he knows everything. I can do anything. I can be anywhere. I'm Superman. I can do everything. It's just like in life, you realize that no, you still have a long way to go, that there are learning curves that you must learn. So the biggest catalyst of change was becoming a father. And what I was able to do as my commitment to the customer was to take the catalyst of growth behind that, very often uncomfortable. It proves the fact to grow, you got to be uncomfortable. And number two, it's just like the Blue Angels example I gave on the beach. You look at it, you take that as an inspiration, as a lessons learned, bring it into your customers' lives. You got yourself a whole new it's a paradigm shift. It really is. And that example resonates. So folks like Sandy, Renee, Jimmy, you get folks like that from situations like that. That has been my example. And that's the only one I want to make mention because it's the only one that truly matters.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's said in that the two things I always think about as a father that I didn't appreciate till then. One, unconditional love. It's amazing how it just comes for the ride. Second one is I then understood why people don't stop talking about their kids. And now I can appreciate how the pride and the love all comes through. And that certainly was coming through in your commentary. And then you said something about we're all children. And I think one of the things I learned from my kids is that there's something in a book somewhere that says the best way to change someone's behavior is to change yours instead of harping at them to change theirs. And I use that all the time in the day job, to your point. The person's face may be older, but that's still a better way to approach a tough situation, is rather than asking, telling, or trying to force them to change theirs. Maybe, just maybe, if you change yours a bit, you could affect the outcome.
Absolutely. That's called selfless love. And we can get into the philosophy and the Greek approaches from our days in philosophy in college or high school, but ultimately being selfless, not being selfish, not having an ego, being, again, customer focus, you eliminate all of that, right? At Royal Transportation Service, hate to sound like a commercial, but this is truly a testament to what is done here, which is why I am here. I'm investing my life, and time is something we can't get back, right? So I'm not going to go and just get another job for the sake of getting another job. I'm here to create meaning and contribute. So if you have somebody, a leader, any representative of any company, whatever the rank and file is within their management structures, if they live and breathe what they do and empower and contribute to the customer's goals and follow the customer journey, those are folks that you want to work with, that you can partner with, and you can step away from being a commodity or a fill up at a gas station, or let alone a truck that just hauls stuff from point A to point B, or a train that moves its freight and wakes up everybody at night with the clicking and clacking of the rails and stuff, flies overhead, moving air cargo.
Yeah,
But
we're all similar, man.
at the
Very
same
similar
time,
themes.
we're all looking to have fun, but at the same time, we're here to contribute and offer a selfless approach, which is a giving approach that contributes to the goals of our customers. So I think, again, that according to market research, gut feeling, and intrinsic knowledge and connections throughout my networks, folks are saying the same thing. I just need somebody who understands my journey, who understands and listens, instead of being somebody who just runs their mouth with a sales pitch after sales pitch or those cheesy pickup lines. It's all the same at the end. But you need to first listen, then you'll know what to do and how to connect with the customer and to be a part of their journey and to do it right. So again, a lot of philosophy there, but I can't stress the fact that we really need to look back at our basic needs and who we are and align them with our customers. If we can't do that, no CRM platform, no cloud-based software, no AI will ever be able to replace a lost customer or their perception of us. Perception is always important. We got to get that right and carry that through in our services and our follow-up and our continual pipelines and their evolving needs. Evolving markets will change, but it goes back to being kids, right? If you have a great parent, whether it's at the terrible twos, the 6-year-olds, the teenage years, the adult 20s, which most of us are in, I think, right? If you have a good parent, a good mother and father who you look up to, they'll always be there for you through tough love, through giving love, and also through selfless love, unconditional love. Again, I don't want to make this sound like a soliloquy or bang up upon a podium, but ultimately customers are there because they want to be nourished and they want to be guided through the ups and downs of the market. And also, you can only do that if they're in the right hands. They have to trust you. Going lowest cost, which is a very thing, by lowballing on price, if that's your focus, then revenue is your output. You're going to lose money at the end. You need to focus on the relationship. And of course, the delivery of service and selfless contribution. That's what really nails the deal, gets the customers, and keeps the continuous relationship flowing. That's all I got to say. And it all comes down to how we were raised. And that's really the old-fashioned approach. And those philosophies will show, because who you are and what you truly mean for your customers will eventually show. Customers are smart. They might not show it, but they are. But if you have your ego checked and if you're able to connect with the customer journey, you remain really close to it, there's nothing left to hide except unlimited growth on both sides of the table.
I appreciate your philosophies. I know the audience will see it as refreshing. Where can we reach you if we need to contact you?
Sure. I could be reached at Gregory, Gregory, at royaltransportationservices.com. Check your spelling. Or you can call me, text me. My phone number, I'll give it out. Look, I'm a very giving person. I'm very open. Call me about anything. Text me about anything. The number's 856-725-8764. Again, 856-725-8764. At the risk of sounding like one of those 1980s commercials, right?
Sure. Yeah, we'll use it as a short.
$2.99 connection charge, 60 cents
Right.
a minute afterwards. No, I'm only kidding. But call me, and there's a wealth of experience, knowledge, and the ability to relate to your questions, your situations that all of us offer here at Royal Transportation Services, but also as a fellow human being and a brother to your needs and to your journey life. Be more than happy to connect on any type of professional development, career questions, any folks who have kids that are in college that need a mentorship, an internship in this interesting journey that we have over at Royal Transportation Services, or the other companies I've been a part of and the markets that we serve. I'd be more than happy to create the connections, connect the dots, and add some value to the future generation of leaders and doers. Not just leaders. We want doers. That's what truly made my career a success, truly makes the journey of our customers a success, but also to carry it and pass that on is something that I very much look forward to. And hey, if you're smarter than any of us, please give us a call. We'll listen. We want to learn as well. We're not know-it-alls.
We ask all of our guests to share their contact information, and they're all very receptive to our reach out. But I would say to my audience, this guy means it. Take a second look at that contact info, reach out to him for any of those areas of discussion. Greg, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
It is my pleasure to be here as part of my contribution to the vision of your show, and hopefully to the interest of the audience. I hope that the folks didn't fall asleep during my breaths of hot air, but I'm kidding. But really, we're here to help each other and to contribute towards common goals. So if you know of anybody that needs any type of transportation needs, we have the experience and knowledge to help you. If you have anybody that has any career questions, I am very receptive and passionate about answering those questions and connecting the dots. Please reach out. And for the benefit of your audience, it's also our mission to see the success of your journey as the host of this show, and the audience is their rightful place on your show. If there's anything we could do as Royal Transportation Services or as Greg Wojcik, please get in touch. It'll be our pleasure to serve and contribute to your needs.
Thanks for your offer, man. I appreciate that.
Pleasure, Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Magic in the Cloud podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.